Hey, Cactus Crew, how you guys going? Thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, hi, I'm Bill. Welcome to my channel. Every Monday, I delve into the Without a Crystal Ball archives and I dig up one of her old articles. It's where I find the truth of who Katie is and what her agenda is for everything. This one relates to Katie Joy's son's feeding tube. And I just want to say that he has gastroparesis, which I also have. Basically is a paralyzed digestive system, the delayed emptying of the bowel. My diet, there are so many foods that I can't eat. And I understand that therapy is the best course of action because putting your child on a feeding tube when they already have a paralyzed digestive system is basically giving up, not even trying to let your child experience life, the pleasures of life, the enjoyment of food. It can be done. I eat the same thing every single day, but that does not mean I don't enjoy food. I look forward to eating. I know what my body can take. I've got to the stage in life where I know that if I eat certain food, I'm going to end up in hospital because that's the shit that can go wrong. All the photos and all the videos I've seen of Katie feeding V, and there's a lot. Like, trust me, I will link all the videos below. There's just certain foods that you must avoid, and Katie gave him that stuff. Like corn is the hardest thing to digest for normal digestive systems. Imagine giving that to someone with gastroparesis. Oh yeah, I'll see you next year, corn. Yeah, exactly. Let's get into it. I must remind you that everything that I do say is my own opinion. This one, I think, is the blog post from withoutacrystalball.com, February 7, 2017. Feeding Tube Awareness, A Day in Our Life with a Feeding Tube by Katie Paulson. 78. Beep, beep, beep. I shoot out of bed as I hear the alarm of my son's feeding pump, notifying me it's done. This is promptly followed by a proclamation by my son, "Mummy, it's done." I drag myself out of bed, throw on a pair of pants that are crumpled into a pile on the floor, and walk to his bedroom. The alarm is still going off, and he is still exclaiming to anyone that will listen that his food is done. My eyes are in a half haze, and I push the total button to ensure he has gotten the full amount of the feed, and then turn off the pump. Once the pump is off, I reach over to his extension, ensure that it is clamped so that no formula spills out of the tube when I disconnect it. Believe me, the bed has been fed more than a few times. I unhook his extension and he pulls down his shirt. He jumps to his feet and he proudly yells, "I'm all done eating." Most days, this is exactly how the morning will begin. Though, more than a few times, will the pump get clogged or a line will get kinked and we are woken from a dead sleep at 3 a.m. There are days I wish I could take a hammer to the alarm. I hear that alarm even when his pump isn't running. It has become that ingrained in my psyche. When I think about our journey to this point, I don't know that I would have ever imagined being a mother to a child that was dependent on a feeding tube to eat. Yet, in the same token, I can't imagine trying to continue to fight him to eat day in and day out. After he is unhooked, he almost always wants to go downstairs to play. We take whatever toys we can fit in our hands and walk down the stairs. For a while, I let him quietly play and allow his tummy to digest the food. Within about an hour, I will notice he is starting to breathe a bit heavier. He will start to shake his head, and I can hear the gas starting to build up in his throat. I know we need to help get the gas out of his tummy. I let him know it's time to vent him, and I need him to lay down. Generally, this is met with tears and a mild tantrum because he doesn't want to stop playing. I let him know I only need 2 minutes to get the bubbles out of his tummy. He lays down and I hook him up to an attachment and 60 ml syringe. A rush of air and sound of gas will start exploding in the tube and in the syringe. I pray that a gush of gas won't send the contents of his stomach exploding all over my hands and shirt. This time I am lucky because nothing gets on me. Instantly, I can see the relief on his face as though he has had the best burp of his life. It's a curious place to live in when you have to physically burp your child through a tube. This is our life every single day. He hasn't ever been able to burp, and this is the only way we can assure he gets the gas out and is comfortable. I never knew how important burping was until my son couldn't do it on his own. After he has vented, he jumps to his feet, and I can tell he's instantly relieved and able to continue playing. It isn't much longer after a good burp that he tells me he is hungry and wants to eat. Eating for him is not like eating for you and me. What do you want to eat? I ask him. Chips, crackers, and apple juice, he exclaims with a jump in the air. Due to his inability to chew and swallow, his diet is very limited, but he still enjoys eating. I give him his cheddar and sour cream chips, a couple club crackers, and a sippy cup of apple juice. I burped. I literally burped when I read apple juice. Apples in general. I mean, apple juice is fine, but it should be the clear one. You don't want no cloudy. There's just such a specific list of foods that you can eat and what you can't eat. What kind of chips? If they're homemade, that's fine. But if they're processed and full of fucking salt and fat, apple juice is just awful. It's what causes probably the most gas. Best diet for gastroparesis. These 4 factors impact stomach emptying rates and should be considered when developing a diet for gastroparesis. Liquids. Thin liquids like water, broth, and juices rapidly empty the stomach. They require little to no digestion and use the effect of gravity to move down to the small intestine. Thicker liquids, such as pureed, soups, or smoothies, empty at a slower rate. Solids. Solid food requires more work for the stomach, which needs to break it down to pass into the small intestine. This process slows stomach processing. Nutrient composition. Fiber and fat-rich foods and oils also take longer time to empty. He sits at the table and turns on his iPad and starts to munch on his snack. A snack for him will take about 30 to 45 minutes because he takes very small bites. He also won't eat very much of it.
After he's satisfied,
he will get down from the table and exclaim, "All done eating." Most parents wouldn't be happy with his diet. It truly is almost entirely void of all nutrients, but I'm always elated when he will put anything in his mouth. There is always the benefit of knowing that he will get a bottle of formula that is completely balanced nutrition. This enables him to learn to like food without worrying about having to force him to eat the foods he can't chew or swallow. He will get back down and start to play with his trucks and cars. I will start to clean up the mess, and I know it will be about an hour before he will need to be relieved again by venting him. We typically vent him by hand 3 to 4 times a day, and then he's fed overnight. He's vented continuously through a bag that attaches to his feeding bag. Having a tube-fed child isn't the hard part for me. It's having a child that cannot burp that makes this more complex. Typically, I'm watching him like a hawk when he plays because the gas can build up at any time. It wasn't too long ago that the bubbles in his stomach got so aggressive they pushed up his esophagus and completely blocked his airway. He had blue lips and was incredibly pale. In order to ensure this doesn't happen, I am diligent in watching as he plays to ensure the gas is relieved before it gets out of control. But you still allow it to build up to the point where you can hear that his breathing is heavy and he's throwing his head around. Like, you get to that point. It shouldn't get to that point. You shouldn't have to wait to see those signs. You're not even watching. You're on the net writing this whole article. That's what you're doing. After he takes a nap, we get ready for dinner and he will proudly point out everything we are going to eat for dinner. I will typically ask him, "Do you want to try this food?" He will always look at me with this funny face and yell, "Nope." My family continuously still ask me if I want to try something different, if I want to eat what they're eating. But I know I can't. And if I do, any little slight difference from what I eat, dramatic consequences. And I'm not being dramatic when I say that. It's hard fucking life. We want him to feel like part of the family, and it's important to us. He knows the social aspect of eating. He will sit at the table. I will fix him a small plate of something. Most of the time, he doesn't touch what I put on the plate. He will watch us eat and ask us if it tastes good. We will offer the food again, and he will always decline. Even if he can't eat, I know he appreciates being included in the meal. This is a load of bull. Oh my God, the only time you sit at that table of yours to have your Viking feast is when Katie's parents used to come over, but they don't come over anymore. You guys don't sit there. You sit on the couch. Katie, you even said you cleaned that couch and you blamed it on your son. My son, he is tube fed and he sits on this couch when he's being fed and blah, blah, blah. The evening wears on and it's time to get him hooked up to his pump for his overnight feed. We give him food overnight because his body can't tolerate large volumes of food at any one time. His digestion and inability to burp makes it challenging to give him large quantities. The overnight feed allows him to be fed while he sleeps, while getting a slow drip of food to his stomach every hour. We prime the machine, hook up his farrel bag, get him connected, and then we tuck him in. Most nights, he ends up tangling himself in the cords. His alarm beeps because he's kinked the cord, but eventually he gets situated and goes to sleep. Katie, if you looked up online, you would be able to see that most parents have the line taped to their child's leg and then it goes down the pajama pant, you know? What are you doing? If I didn't experience all this myself, like there was almost a time where I was going to end up on a feeding tube. I was on the formula, but I was refusing like a feeding tube because I knew if I could just get it to, like at one point I just removed everything and then just started putting back in like foods that could like work. And now I just know what I can eat and what I can't. And it's been a long fucking road. I don't want to turn a blind eye to this because I know through experience, through personal fucking experience, that this is a whole lie. And the feeding tube is part of permanent disability, which means that as long as he does, and Katie is his caregiver, then Katie and Toad, they get a financial exemption on their property tax. I'll link that below as well. Maybe I'll have to put that info amongst all the shit, you know, do a big premiere. How long is this child going to have to be on the feeding tube for? He's 11 this year. And he was put on it when he was, what, 3.5, 4? She's not even trying to introduce getting off it. Like, he's going to experience so much more harm and difficulty. That is his independence. You know? He's always going to have to depend on her. And that is what Katie is doing, in my honest opinion, making her son depend on her for everything, because that way she gets the benefits. She gets the pity from the people, you know? She gets the, you know, it takes a special mum to be one. Yes, it does. So caring, always there for your son. You know what I'm saying, guys? I'm looking directly down the microphone right now. This life isn't typical by any stretch of the imagination. However, the tube has given us a freedom. No, it's given you a freedom and a sense of calm.
There's no fucking sense of calm in your house.
However, the tube has given us a freedom and a sense of calm. No longer do we have to worry about what he's not eating. We don't have to fight him. To sit at a table for the first time in his life, he can play and be unencumbered by the stress of food. Or you are the stress. The food isn't the stress. You are the one that fucking is the stress point. Feeding tubes are definitely a life changer. But for us, they have been a lifesaver.
I wouldn't have our days any other way.
Why? Ding, 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 ding. I'd like to purchase a red flag. Thank you very much. Wow. Wow, Katie. Wow. So the Fowler's position is like this. They never feed him like that. They always have him laying down, which is going to cause way more complications, and he's probably more likely to aspirate, choking on his food with his breath. I'll link all this below. There's a lot. But thanks, Katie, for walking us through a day in the life of a feeding tube, the day in the life of a mother who just gave up. Basically, right? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys next Monday. Take care.